We had been played for chumps.
Yes.
You and the president said, nope, we're not going to let these folks, the communists, just run over us.
And the worst guy over there, besides Xi Jinping, is Elon Musk. He moved everything over to Shanghai. He said he was going to produce here. Everything we did, Biden undid. And look at what we've got. Like, I was deeply moved by your monologue. And if I may, I wrote an article just last week about the Hamas attacks. And everybody in America needs to understand one thing. The Gaza Strip, which is adjacent to Israel, it's 26 miles long. It's 3.5 to 7.5 miles wide at its widest. And there's 300 miles of tunnels underneath the Gaza Strip, which are used by the Hamas terrorist group to, first of all, import rockets and other weapons from Egypt under the tunnels, and then to conduct all manner of rocket attacks and raids on Israel. And this attack that happened, Mike, was the result of these tunnels stretching underneath the border into Israel and having these people pop up and killing babies. And as our politicians here in Washington are trying to prevent Israel from destroying those tunnels in Gaza for its security, the Israelis are taking a principled stand because that's what they need to do. So as you watch the news, please understand that the reason why the Israelis are in Gaza is to destroy those tunnels in Hamas. That's it.
And I think people don't even appreciate that there are more tunnels under that little piece of real estate in Gaza than the entire New York City subway system.
Well, look, the one other thing, and I wrote about this in the articles on my Substack, and I'm of the Vietnam era, right? Vietnam War era. And I don't know if you know this, but one of the big reasons why America lost the war in Vietnam, it was the first war we ever lost, was these things called the tunnels of Cu Chi. And there was a very, very elaborate system of tunnels that the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese had under Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City. It stretched all the way to the Cambodian border. And it was from those tunnels that they launched the Tet Offensive in '68, which was the turning point in the war. It was from those tunnels they'd pop under Tan Son Nhut Air Force Base and kill Americans. And they launched all manner of cyber attacks. And the problem was the American command did not do anything about those tunnels other than to send some of the bravest men in the world down there with pistols and flashlights. That was our response. And the whole point of the article I wrote was Israel must learn the lesson of the tunnels of Cu Chi in Vietnam, and they can't have those tunnels. And so this is where we're at, and it's a very dangerous place. Having Joe Biden there as president is drawing us in to wars in Ukraine, wars now with Iran and China, communist China. It's always communist China, folks. Is just waiting to go after Taiwan once everything starts hitting the fan in the Middle East. So I'm spending all of my time now trying to get Donald Trump elected in 2024, and I hope you'll join me in that.
When you were in the White House and helping President Trump, we actually were pushing back on the unfair trade deals.
Yes,
and it's one of the things that I don't think a lot of people understood. We had been played for chumps.
Yes.
You and the president said, nope, we're not going to let these folks, the communists, just run over us, lie to us, make trade deals that are not good for Americans. And we started making progress. That progress has been lost in the last 2 years.
It's been totally reversed. It started in 2001 when President Bill Clinton, just as his last act, allowed China into the World Trade Organization and access to our markets. And they came in and they broke every rule in the WTO book to destroy our factories and our jobs. And they took away 5 million manufacturing jobs, 70,000 factories, and Donald Trump got elected in large part on the platform of pushing back on that. And what we did, and it was a beautiful thing, was the Trump tariffs, because if they're cheating, if they're subsidizing their exports into the United States, the only way you can offset that is with tariffs. And that's exactly what we did. But the job wasn't even half finished when 2020 came along. And we need him back to finish that job, because China takes $1 trillion from us every year now in the trade deficit. And you know what they use that for, Mike? Their military budget.
Yeah. We're visiting with Peter Navarro, who was the trade czar under President Trump, and I hope he's going to be again. That would be my greatest hope, that he would go back to that office. Next week, Joe Biden is going to be meeting with the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, and I can't imagine what's going to be the conversation when they meet in San Francisco.
Well, I've been there, done that on several occasions. Xi came to Mar-a-Lago 2017. We were in Buenos Aires at the G20. These are bad people. They will look you in the eye, agree to things, and then as soon as they leave the room, they start violating those agreements. They simply can't be trusted. One of the great failures of the administration was what was supposed to be a beautiful thing. We negotiated a beautiful deal with China, and at the last minute, they reneged. And here's the lesson, folks. All they want to do is talk. Well, they take our money and our jobs and put a gun to our head. That's all they want to do. And there's nothing to say to them. And the problem with Joe Biden, he bragged about talking more to Xi Jinping than any world leader ever. He'd just go there. It's like, but if you look at what's on the Hunter Biden laptop, you understand what the game was. He was selling this country out, influence peddling. So there's nothing to say. There's nothing to say.
Here at home, manufacturing has got to return. We've just seen the United Auto Workers deal with GM Ford and the former Chrysler Motor Company. What's wrong with that deal? What is going to happen as a result of some of these strikes?
The central problem is that Joe Biden has inflicted, and that's the proper word, an electric vehicle mandate upon this country at your expense. Okay, make no mistake about it. Your tax dollars are going to subsidize electric vehicles. Now, what the problem with that? The difference between an American car with an internal combustion engine made in Detroit is when you replace that with an electric vehicle, what's the engine? It's a battery. Where are the batteries made? Communist China. If you make the batteries there, you're going to make the cars there. So what we've essentially done with that agreement, because it just drives up costs incredibly. And I'm a blue collar worker kind of guy. But that deal, coupled with the electric vehicle mandate, is essentially going to surrender our auto industry to the communist Chinese. And the worst guy over there, besides Xi Jinping, is Elon Musk. He moved everything over to Shanghai. He said he was going to produce here. And he moved everything over to that Shanghai plant. And he's going to dump those products in here. Ford, GM, and his Stellantis are all going to be out of business if that mandate stays.
Can we recover? Is it possible for us to get back to that place where we once were?
We were well on our way to doing it with Donald Trump. I mean, he had a formula back in 2016 on the campaign trail. And once he got in there, he implemented it. It was a low tax burden on the middle class. It was a low regulatory burden on businesses. And it was leveling the playing field on trade. I mean, look, you can't compete with communist China when they use slave labor sweatshops and the government subsidizes huge subsidies on everything they ship into us. And their plot, look, companies here, Mike, their job is to make money, right?
Sure.
China Inc.'s job is to destroy America and rule the world. Okay, who do you think is going to win that unless you have a strong president who sees the game and stands up to it? And Donald Trump was just the rarest of things in American politics. because he was a guy who wasn't beholden to the special interests. He didn't have to put his hand out with a handful of gimme, much obliged, right? He just went in there and did what was good for America. And it was good for America. Does anybody want to trade today for what was going on with Donald Trump? I mean, everything we did, Biden undid, literally on the first day. And look at what we've got. The economy's in shambles with gas, food, whatever. You've got instability across the world now. You've got a Defense Department which focuses more on woke stuff than it does on combat readiness. And at the head of the snake there, you got Joe Biden, Merrick Garland as the Department of Justice, and the way they work is all they want to do is put people like Donald Trump and me in prison to get us out of the way so that they can keep doing what they're doing.
We got to make
destroying this country.
We got to make sure that doesn't happen, Peter, because I need to see you and President Trump back in the White House. I kind of liked it when fuel prices were half what they are now and we could afford groceries. Hey, if you want to stand with Dr. Peter Navarro as he fights the ridiculous legal battle that's been brought by Nancy Pelosi's January 6th committee and by Merrick Garland's goose-stepping goons, I know he will appreciate your help. Now, if you want to find out how to help him and how to get more information on his books and published materials, we have links right there at Huckabee.tv so you can get connected, and I hope you will.